Welcome in, builders. This week we're taking a look at one of the newest nations in Dominion 6. This is Middle Age Nidavangr, Bear, Wolf, and Crow. Nidavangr is a land of windswept moors and frozen mountains. This cold and inhospitable land once belonged to the Jotuns, or perhaps the Vanir, but it was conquered and settled by strong and fierce men in ages past. Ever since, they have fought bitter wars with the former inhabitants of the land. Centuries of war have tempered the will and the ways of the Nidings of Nidavangr. Men as well as women are taught to fight at an early age, and failure to survive combat or the harsh climate is more prevalent than dying of disease or old age. To most Nidings, death in bed is a failure of life as a whole. Nidavangr is composed of 3 clans, named after the totemic animals, the bear, the wolf, and the crow. The warriors of the clans adopt the battle tactics of their totem. The clans are ruled by jarls, but it is the Seathberenders, the clan shamans, who are the true masters of Nidavangr, and the ones who perform the Nidlogning, the Nidbath, on which sacred warriors of the jarldom. The Nidbathed are ghastly warriors who are not even stopped by death. Should a Nidbath be killed, he rises again and continues to fight, for he has several lives. Out of necessity, the perpetual conflict with the Vanir has made the Nidings search for ways to avoid the effects of glamour in their lands. And so, the Awakening God taught the clan shamans the art of Seath and how to scry their lands for that which cannot be seen. So this is a really interesting nation. This has a lot of the same feel as EA Ulm, where we have strong barbarian types with a lot of non-fort recruitment. We are not as crafty as they are, but we have some pretty potent magic too. It's a nice combination here. National features: we are humans of barbarian descent. We have partial cold resistance, and we prefer cold scales of +2. When we look at our chassis, we're not Ulmish, but we have that nice barbarian stat line. For military, we have some stealthy raiding infantry, we have berserk infantry, and we have semi-immortal sacreds. For magic, we are strong in death, astral, air, nature, water, and we have a little bit of earth and blood. That is quite the lineup there. That's a lot of in-game potential. That's a lot of good mages with decently easy to cast spells. Our priests, however, are weak, but we can perform blood sacrifices. Our Dominion has the ability to scry. This is the same as, say, Archaecephaly, where we get accurate and automatic military reports within our Dominion. This is really powerful. This helps you find exactly what you're going to go up against, and it will help you negate glamour hijinks that might be going on. For scales and blesses, we have a turmoil limit of +1 and a cold limit of +1. For buildings, this is a big surprise to me. We have standard forts. That means in Middle Age, we actually build castles. I was not expecting a barbarian faction to be able to build castles. One of the distinct weaknesses of the quote-unquote more uncivilized factions in Middle Age is they are still stuck on forts and not able to go up to castles. We don't have that problem here, and it is ironic since we actually have really good non-fort recruitment. So kind of a weird thing there. It is definitely a benefit, though. We also build temples at half cost, so they are only 300 gold. For sites, we have the Nidakatil. This gives us our cap-only mage, our cap-only leader, and our cap-only sacred. In addition, it gives us 3 death gems, a air gem, and an astral pearl. That is a pretty nice income, and we have mages who can definitely make use of all of those things. Units and sacreds. For our units, we have a pretty small lineup, but this is a good lineup. Everybody here has a use, and I don't really think there's any lemons. First up, we have the Cub Warrior, who can also be recruited outside of forts. Notice there's no terrain requirements. That is huge. That's one of the big ouches on a lot of people who have non-fort recruitment, if your map is just unkind to you, and it can really suck. But we don't have that problem. We just have outside of fort. Now, the first thing about Cub Warriors, they are dirt cheap. Why are they dirt cheap? Well, finally, Dominions brings in what it's been missing the whole time: child soldiers. These are 13-year-old kids that are fighting in our army. They are not the best. Let's just get that out of the way. But you can already see up here the stat line: 9 gold, 3 resources, 2 recruitment points. This is really important for non-fort units to be very low in resources and recruitment points if you're going to be able to get them in any kind of real numbers. Stat-wise, 11 HP, 11 strength is pretty good for just a human chassis. We have standard magic protect or magic resistance, and we have good morale. Down here, we see some of our racial traits. We have cold resistant 5, we have snow move, we have mountain survival, and we have forest survival. That's going to be on basically everything we have. For our Cub Warriors specifically, they are skirmishers that are undisciplined. So they will just be in skirmisher formation, and you can't do anything about that. Put an asterisk in that because we're going to come back to a way we can get around that. What do you get? You get a axe, length 1, 10 attack, 19 slashing damage, and they are wearing furs. At first, you're like, that's pretty bad for middle age, right? Not really. For the price and for them to be non-fort recruit, you can just pour these guys out of the right area, and even the wrong area. You can generally get 5 to 10 of these guys, and you could just have several provinces recruit them, gather them all up in one spot, and you're off and running. When we get to the bringing it all together section, I'll show you the game behind me here, but these guys were absolutely vital for the circumstances I found myself in. So overall, for your worst troop, this is pretty good. I'll take this over a militia for sure. Next up, we have a Crow Clan Archer. Now, short bow, middle age, I've softened on that a little bit, but my caveats still apply. A short bow that's going to do 15 damage, piercing or slashing, is going to really struggle against real troops in the middle age. But for archery duels, for attacking crossbows, if you can get in range, that's okay. We do have the benefit of slightly better than human precision and HP. And we are wearing full leather armor, although no hat. But the extra precision is really nice. That does help a lot. And these are okay. They have a short sword that's better than a dagger that a lot of archers carry around, and they're pretty competent with it. So if something does get up to them, they have a chance to be able to defend themselves. We are not particularly great at buffing archers, although we do have some air and some nature if you want to. But I think these guys are okay. They're okay. If you could get them to fire on some of these more expensive crossbows, you would definitely enjoy that. And of course, we have our suite of abilities, including on this one, stealthy. So this could be included in a stealthy raid force. Next up, we have the Wolf Clan Reaver. Standard traits, and if we look up here, even better stats: 12 HP, 11 strength, 11 attack, 14 defense, 11 gold, 14 resources, 12 recruitment is not going to break the bank. These are equipped pretty well, actually. Scale mail cuirass, a reinforced leather cap, and a shield. We look at actual protection values: 9 on the head, 10 on the body, plus a shield. He's wielding a broadsword that he's very good with. 12 attack, 17 slashing damage. Thumbs up. That's not bad. That beats my 16 goal, and they're actually good with a 12 attack. Normal size human, so you can have 3 to a square. They have a javelin that does 13 piercing damage. I'm not a huge fan of javelins in middle age, especially if they're not doing like 15, 16 damage. So you're looking at like giant troops to do that. But these are okay. Expanding into barbarians, that's kind of nice, or other lightly armored troops, that's okay. Gives us something to do if they can't get into melee. They're all right. They also have Pillager. Pillager is a command that you can do that will allow you to move in and kind of like pillage a province, which will get you some gold, cause some unrest, and kill off some population. If you are out raiding and you know you're not going to keep the land and you want to hurt an opponent, this is a way that you could do it. Next up, we have the Bear Clan Warrior, also can be recruited outside of forts. These guys are pretty spooky. They have Well, first of all, they are 12 gold, 16 resources, 7 recruitment points. So 16 resources is actually a little difficult for non-fort recruit. There's not a lot of provinces that are going to have 30, 40, 50 plus resources that are not forted. So that's a little on the sketchier side, but you can sometimes get 2 or 3 of them out. And again, it's not fort recruit, so you could just put that on and leave it on reoccurring recruit and come back for them later. Stat-wise, we of course have our regular stuff, but then we have bad formation fighter. So these guys act as if they are size 4, so you can only have 2 per square. They are skirmishers and undisciplined. So just like the Cub Warriors, you can't get them into good formations. Why do we like these guys? Well, they have Berserk +3. With 14 protection, which is 13 on body, 18 on head, and 14 HP, especially against human troops, you're pretty likely to be able to trigger your Berserk, and that will stack nicely as we have no natural protection into our protection, our attack, and our strength. So now we are doing a battle axe attack, which is a length 2 weapon, normally at 12 attack, 25 damage. Now we're looking at 15 attack. I think it goes up to 29 because it's a two-handed weapon. 28 or 29 damage slashing. That is great. That is like enough that you could maybe even chip away at a stupid monolith if you had to. That's really, really nice. And being berserking troops, sometimes you can win battles just by being the last person on the field, even if you really should have retreated away much, much earlier. The scale mail halberd and the half helmet is fine, especially on a nice two-handed troop like this. This is quite nice. A little difficult to get out with that 16 resource, but not bad in any way here. These guys would really like some buffs, and we are good at buffing. So bark skin, quickness, body ethereal, things like that. Quite nice for these. Next up, we finally get to a troop that requires a fort. If you liked Ulm's Steel Maidens, you're going to love the Nidavangr. You'll have to forgive me. My apologies. They are 14 gold, 12 resources, 18 recruitment points. So these are going to be a little difficult to get out in huge numbers, even in a fort, depending on your scales. What do you get? Still better than human stats. 12 HP, 11 strength, 12 attack. She has the standard suite of skills in addition to Pillager, Formation Fighter, so good formation, and Ambidextrous. So you can have 4 of these ladies who are ambidextrously dual-wielding 2 short swords that are 12 attack and 16 piercing slashing damage. That is really impressive, actually. That's a really high attack density. That's 8 attacks coming out of a square, and they're decent attacks. 16's good enough that you can fight. Now, note, you have no shield, but you are wearing a scale mail cuirass, and you have a reinforced leather cap, and you have 14 defense, and that's 14 without a shield. So they're actually a little difficult to hit for lower end attack troops. Against like light-ish troops and even okay line troops, these ladies are absolute blenders for them. And because they have good formation, they are really good at taking point buffs. So again, body ethereal, bark skin. It's hard for us to do, but if we could give them strength, they'd really appreciate that. Or weapons of sharpness, things like that, they'd really appreciate that. Quite a nice troop here. And only having 5 encumbrance in melee, they actually can fight for quite a while before they poop out. So good troop here. Finally, we have our cap-only sacred. This is the Nidbathed. These are really interesting and very unique. First of all, these are, again, human barbarians, so pretty good stats for a human. 45 gold, 12 resources, 46 recruitment points. That is a bit of a pain point, but you get 15 HP, 13 strength, 13 attack, 13 defense, and that's real 13, no shield included. That's pretty darn good. 13 magic resistance, 18 morale, and they have 8 protection because they're not wearing a helmet, unfortunately. But trait-wise, we are, of course, sacred. We have our normal suite of traits. In addition, we have soul scars. These are really nice. What these essentially do is half your dominion rounded up, extra lives. So you strike him down once, he comes back, uses 1 scar. Strike him down twice, he comes back, uses a scar. So if you have 3 or 4 scars, you have to kill this guy 4 or 5 times before he actually stays down. And this is actual deaths. So certain blesses actually will trigger, like Righteous Wrath will trigger when you die. You'll just come back and you're so mad they killed you, you actually get your own Righteous Wrath. That's pretty ridiculous. So these are really, really interesting and open up some really cool blesses that you can do. We'll talk about that more when we get there. I don't want to spoil that, but very, very interesting. Now, one downside here is they will tend to rack up afflictions, because while you do come back to life, that does not reattach your arm when you do so. So that is one downside here, that they will rack them up, but they are pretty powerful. That two-handed greatsword, length 2, 14 attack for 25 slashing damage. Just like the bear warriors, these guys can chip away at monoliths if they have to, and especially depending on your bless and the point buffing you're able to get into them. These guys are super duper spooky. I will say though, without a bless, this is kind of mediocre, and they're very pricey on recruitment points when we could get something pretty similar for 7 out of a bear warrior compared to 46. Or even our maidens, we could still get 2.5 maidens for one of these. So your bless is going to make or break this troop. Heroes, commanders, and prophet. For heroes, we have 3, and all of them are really good. We have the Seathmather Bear. He has Earth 2, Nature 3. He's a priest. He has our standard suite of traits. In addition, he has poison resistance. He is a berserker +3. He can shapeshift into a great bear. Has an axe that he wields. It's only a one-hander, unfortunately, and has furs. But being able to shift into a great bear will make him larger and have extra HP. He is all right. This doesn't open up anything new or anything, but strength of Gia, etc., some crafts that you might not be able to reach. We don't natively have Earth 2, so this opens up getting Earth boots, and then he puts those on, and he can make you some Dwarven hammers. You'd quite like that. And Nature 3 is just a usable amount of pathing. Strength of Gia, also something he could do pretty easily for himself. So then you're looking at Howl or Recovery or things like that that you could cast. Pretty nice little hero here. Next, we have the Seathmather Wolf. Water 2, Death 3, Nature 2, Priest level 1. Shapeshifts into a wolf. Wolf chassis give them stealth. So you will have stealth on a pretty good caster here. He also comes in with a skeletal wolf at the beginning of battle. It's whatever. This one, I don't know. He's a little less impressive because these pathings are a little less impressive. Although the cross pathing here is unique for us. So you can get some interesting things out of him. Finally, we have the Seathmather Crow. This is a Air 2, Astral 3, Death 4. That is a spooky combination of paths. Can shapeshift into a crow, which allows you to, of course, fly. Crow having less HP means you should go into crow generally. And I believe you don't actually lose any paths while in crow form. So you could just chill as a crow and cast all your stuff. Immediately, you should be thinking Cloud Trapeze, Winds of Death, right off the bat here. So very, very scary hero that you can nab for yourself for free. So some extra fortune could be pretty good. All 3 of these are pretty decent. We are missing a multi-hero, but you can't have it all, I suppose. Winner, please, everyone multi-hero, win. Going up to our commanders. Again, not a huge lineup, but everyone here is really good, and you will probably use them all. Maybe not this one. First up, we have a Crow Clan Scout. This is a pretty standard scout, has a short bow. Doesn't have that extra precision for some weird reason. 35 gold, 6 resources, 1 recruitment point. That's fine. As far as scouts go, good traits down here. He has snow move, has the cold resistant, and the mountain and forest survival. So relatively mobile. Not much to say here. It's a fine scout. Next up, we have the Bear Clan Cub Mother. Can be recruited outside of forts. This one is pretty darn interesting. Let me back up a little. Your Crow Clan Scout is also a non-fort recruit, so a recruit anywhere scout. Cha-ching. All right, back to Bear Clan Cub Mother. Why would you want one of her? Well, she's she's kind of like one of the berserkers that we can see below. She does have that skirmisher, and she has an ability called Cub Mother, which is, to my knowledge, unique to her. This commander is exceptionally good at leading unruly youngsters. Cub warrior units under her command are not restricted to skirmish formations and can be given specific battle orders. So if you are using a bunch of Cub warriors and you do want them to be in formation, you can have her lead 50 of them. It's okay. I don't think the skirmish formation really hurts them too much. They're not really expected to kind of live through battles, so we're just using our child soldiers as guided missiles for all intensive purposes. As a chassis herself, it's fine. Berserker +3 is fine. No magic paths or anything. I don't think this is where you would be looking at thugging or anything. So if you want to have your cubs in formations, you'd get her. Otherwise, I don't think that's particularly interesting. Next up, we have a Nidhurs, can be recruited outside of forts as well. This is a 75 leadership, so no formations, unfortunately. Leader, only 1 recruitment point, 60 gold, 22 resources, that's fine. Has pillager, so if you're leading around pillaging troops and you want to do that, you can do it. Is a stealthy commander, so again, if you want to do some stealth raiding, although no, we only have 40, so we're not super duper stealthy if people start looking for you, but you can get out there and surprise people a little bit. Is really good with that broadsword and has the javelin. Iron cap, chainmail halberd, shield ends up giving us 15 protection with a shield. It's a fine one. You probably will get some of these because you're going to need to pick up lots of recruit anywhere forces, and you're just going to need lots of people running around picking those up. Nice that you can be stealthy while doing it too. So a usable chassis, not our best leader. Our probably best leader is the Nidavangr. The Nidavangr has our standard traits, 100 leadership, so +1 morale and can do formations. Otherwise, 95 gold, 13 resources, 1 recruitment point. Has a skull face and a chainmail cuirass, no shield, notably. I think if you have the time and inclination, giving them a shield just to keep them safe would be nice. It's kind of whatever, though. At least they have some protection. They're okay. Good leader, not too expensive. You'll probably get a few for your main army to have formations. Next up, we have the Nidavangr apprentice, can be recruited outside of forts. Note that. 75 gold, 2 resources, 2 recruitment points. Is a sacred unit, is a mage. You have a 100% chance to have 1 water, 1 earth, 1 astral, 1 death, or 1 nature. Normally, these are not the type of mages I particularly like, but on this nation, this is a non-fort recruit that is dirt cheap at 75 gold, 30 gold per year upkeep for 5 research, assuming you have no magic scales, and you can do a decent amount of point bluffing here. Liquid body, the earth ones can do stone skin buffing, astral's body ethereal. Death is kind of left out, but they could throw a little bit of death magic if you want some offensive power. Nature is bark skin. That is pretty good. And for dirt cheap, and remember, they're going to be slow to recruit because you can recruit them outside of forts, although you can still get them in forts. So they're not exotic recruit only. That is pretty nice. Sometimes that kind of bites you. Dirt cheap. Essentially what? 37.5 gold every turn if you're ameliorizing that out. Not bad at all. You're going to want to spam temples anyways because you're going to want a high dominion score on this nation. So for 900 gold, which is 600 for the lab and 300 for the temple, you could just put this on chain recruit and build up some pretty decent research, especially if you go with some magic scales. And when wartime comes, about half of them, maybe a little bit more, can join the army and do some minor point buffing or minor evocation magic for you. Pretty darn nice here. Pretty darn nice. This is like Veti Hag levels of efficiency, although needs a little bit more infrastructure to do. Very, very nice. Surprisingly good mage here. Next up, we have the Bear Clan Nidavangr. Can be recruited outside of forts as well. So again, slow to recruit because you can recruit them outside of a fort. Man, that's a tongue twister. 245 gold, 3 resources, 2 recruitment points. Slightly better than average stats. Good morale. 98 gold per year for 11 research is efficient. He is Earth 1, Nature 2, Priest 1. This is pretty darn good. You can give him a Thistle Mace and he can Strength of Gia up even higher. The Earth 1 is kind of whatever. Mainly, I guess that would be you'd personal Iron Skin, Temper Flesh yourself. I could see maybe some light thugging here. Previously mentioned buffs plus Enlarged Self, personal regen. Give him some armor and a weapon of some sort. I could see it. He does shapeshift into a bear, so do note what when you're giving him gear, the slots on a bear. But interesting. This is mainly for me, though, going to be my better buffer for Barkskin mainly. And he'll be pretty good at it. Has the snow move, so he can keep up with everybody. Has the shapeshifting, so he's a little bit safer. When he gets killed, he'll turn into the bear. That's pretty nice. Good mage here. Good mage. No randoms, I will note here, so you can't luck into anything else. Next up, we have the Wolf Clan Seathberlinger. This is a Water 2, Nature 1, Priest 1. 245 again, 5 resources, 2 recruitment points. He shapeshifts into a wolf. Remember, the wolf is a stealthy chassis. This is a little less useful, but this is your quickness point buffer. This is also your moss body point buffer. So again, just reinforcing, we have a lot of point buffs that we can do, and our troops would, which are already pretty decent, really appreciate all those types of buff. You also could consider liquid body plus moss skin, plus bark skin, plus quickness. That's some pretty hefty buffing that we can throw into that. Overall, pretty decent mage. Maybe a little less useful than the Nature 2. Next up, we have the Nidhil. This is a cap only. This is our Sacred Commander. A lot of times they're not really worth it, but for us, he can bless, and he's as good as any of our shamans who would like to be point buffing, not blessing. So that's a use for him right there. 170 gold, 12 resources, 2 recruitment points. Priest level 1. That's fine. He does have the Soul Scar, and unlike our Sacreds who get 50%, he actually has 100%. So at Dom 10, you would have to kill this guy 11 times to get him to stay down. That is pretty ridiculous. He's only leadership 50, although he is inspirational. So no formations or anything, but I think that's fine. You're going to want a few of these guys probably to help bless your Sacreds anyways. He has a great sword that he's excellent at using, and he has a scale mail cuirass. One of the things that immediately pops into my head here is, one, good luck killing this guy in the arena with even just a little bit of gear. He is going to be an absolute nightmare. He'll have his bless. Yeah, pretty ridiculous. Number 2, great sword of sharpness turns these guys into absolute killers of things such as monoliths. You could get this pretty cheap, 1 per turn. You could pump out some great swords of sharpness and bless them and get them in there. And I think they will chop up a monolith pretty darn nice for you. That is one of my scare thrones, is whenever I see a monolith, I just shudder and think, oh God, I hope I don't need that throne. So this is a pretty efficient chassis at being able to take that out. I mean, if he dies, you lose 5 earth gems and 170 gold. That's not too bad. That's not too bad for what he might be able to bring to you. Again, also in the arena, a great sword wielder, even if you don't give him any gear, with whatever bless you have, is pretty darn spooky to take out. Cool unit. Very, very cool. Finally, we have our cap-only mage, the Crow Clan Seathberlinger. This one is a spooky mage. First of all, he is pretty expensive at 490 gold. He is slow to recruit, cap only, of course. Human stats essentially here, but 196 gold per year is not that bad. That's essentially on par, but you're not going to sit around and research. Downside, you are old. You're 118 out of 100. So unless you take unaging, they are going to be old. So no real way around that, really. That's unfortunate, but you get Air 1, Astral 2, Death 2, Priest 1. Then you get 2 independent 100% and a 10%. air, astral, death, blood. So you could get any combination here. These are not linked. But that being said, you could get up to, let's ignore the 10%. I usually don't count that. You could have an air 3. You could have an astral 4. You could have a death 4. You could have an astral 2, death 3. You could have an air 2, death 3. That should immediately make you think, wait a minute. Cloud Trapeze, Winds of Death, Return. Yep. Have fun countering that. That's always great when people can teleport onto your army, and then I don't even have to wait for a Ring of Returning if I don't. I could just cast Return and leave the combat at that point. They're guaranteed to be able to twice spawn themselves with their death magic. This is a very scary mage. In addition, having some blood means that we could do horrors. We could summon in vampires. That leaves a lot of things open. We essentially have the trinity of in-game magic, which is astral, death, and blood. I don't think we're a great blood nation. This is our only native blood, so you're probably going to be doing like scout blood hunting to try to like bootstrap yourself into it. I don't know about that, but some flesh-eating axes, a couple other little blood things you could do. I think that could be kind of interesting, and it gives you some late game potential if you just are dragging on and you can't get anything else. They could do that for you. So quite a good mage here. I don't think you're ever going to have as many as you'd want. They can shapeshift into that crow, just like the hero. So good mobility, better than they might otherwise look. And when the crow gets killed, then you can shift back into human form. So it gives you a little bit of protection there. Do note that all of these shamans that we looked at are sacred. So if you, for whatever reason, decide you don't like this sacred, you could go with a mage bless. And I think that would be viable enough. It would be okay. Yeah, I think that would be just fine. Who would I make my prophet? This is actually a little bit of a weird one. Because if you're going to use your sacreds, you need to get your cap dominion maxed out ASAP. I actually think that your number one prophet is your starting scout. And I think they stay in your capital and preach up to your cap ASAP so that you can start actually getting out some sacreds. Because remember, it's based on the dominion score in your capital the turn they are recruited. And these guys only get half rounded up, it seems. So if you have 7 dominion, you probably don't want to recruit these guys until you're up to 7, because that would give them 4 soul scars. That's essentially getting 4 of these guys kind of quote unquote for the price of 1. So if we look at the cost here and just imagine you got 4 of them, I know that's not exactly the same, but there's a lot of value there. Much more value than 1 extra life, for example. After that person died, I think I would probably go with either a Nidavangr or maybe just the Nid here. I think either one would be fine. The Nid here would be interesting because you could actually come in with multiple lives. That would, if you catch an arrow to the face or something, you'd just come right back. Now, I don't think you can ever regen scars. You get them when you're recruited, and that's how many you have until you die. But even then, 3 extra lives? Sure. I'd love to have a prophet that has 3 extra lives. And he's swinging a great sword, so it's not like they're just going to stab him to death instantly if it's like one stupid horse that got to him. He's likely to be able to fight back. Alternatively, like I said, the Nidavangr, he's a leader, he doesn't have anything else to do. Making him a Holy 3 would be absolutely fine. I don't think you'd have any problems with that. National items and spells. As for national items, we have no national items. As for national spells, we actually have 4. Let's go ahead and start in Thaumaturgy. We have the ever-present Northern Nation Seath Curse. We do have somebody who can natively cast this. I don't really care for this one. It's a range 5 ritual, costs you 3 death gems, and you cause a random non-cursed enemy commander in the province hard MR to resist, as well as a random friendly non-cursed commander hard to resist. When would I use this? If I see a solo god or prophet or expensive mage somewhere within range of this, I'd probably throw it at them. If you could curse a combat god, that increases their chances of taking afflictions, thus you being able to kill them. Probably worth taking a swing at that. Beyond that, though, not particularly interesting. Our other 3 are all in Conjuration. At Conjuration 3, we have Sloth of Bears. Nature 2, we have Natively. 6 nature gems. We don't have native nature income, but we could probably find some. You get 15 plus for 6 nature gems. Unfortunately, these are not sacred. Illwinter, why aren't these sacred? We should have sacred bears, sacred wolves, and sacred crows for this nation. I think that's a big miss on that. But these are okay. They can help you get a siege. You don't really have like a big requirement for nature gems, so this would feel okay to dump. Although Thistle Maces, Howl, Swarm, I think there's plenty of other things you'd prefer to spend your gems on. So again, dubious use on those. Next up at 4, we have Command Dragar. These are the undead cold units. Death 2, we have Natively. They cost 12 death gems, and you get 4 of them. So pretty pricey. We'll look at the chassis here in a second when we're done looking. But for this nation, all of our troops having cold resist, I think these are actually a little more interesting than I normally find them. We are resistant to the cold aura, and this allows us to sprinkle a little bit of fear in. So a few of these guys behind your main line, just to kind of work their way in and give some fear. It's okay. It's okay. That's a hard pill to swallow when I could be using death gems for skull staves, for Twiceborn, for Lichcraft. I think we have a lot of other things we'd prefer to use those on, but I see the use case here. Finally, at Conjuration 8, we have Summon Dwarf of the 4 Directions. 62 air is pretty expensive. We have 1 air income natively, and it's not on a chassis for us. We have an air 2 possibility. Well, we actually have air 3 possibility, but they don't have earth, or we have earth 1 that doesn't have any air. So you'd be boosting pretty dang hard if this is what you were trying to get to. This summons up 4 different dwarves. When you get all 4 of them, worldwide, you get Darkness and Perpetual Storm, and it's not something that can be dispelled. They have to find and kill one of your dwarves to turn it off. So if you are prepared for that, that could be a pretty nasty little surprise for people to have Darkness and Perpetual Storm come up. But I just don't see it on this nation. It's really far out of your way. You'd have to probably make a pretender to do it. That'd be okay. I mean, blesses are fine, but I'm not seeing too exciting things there. If we look at those, these are the 4 dwarves. They bring in some different magic. This is air, water, earth, fire, which is unique, air, earth, nature, and air, earth, death. All those are fine. They're cool and all, but I just don't see it happening. The Throg are those undead. When they get wounded, they get bigger, which is kind of interesting. I think that ups their HP a little bit and their strength, of course. It's kind of whatever. They have a chill aura. They have that fear. I do think these are vaguely interesting here to mix in with some fear for your troops. And we have the Great Bear. Again, undisciplined animal that's not sacred. Does have some pretty damaging attacks, but we have troops that do that. I mean, our Bear Cub Warriors have a better attack and the same damage as a Claw. So, I don't know about those. For other magic, I think we mainly want to rush down Alteration. In Alteration, what we are looking for is Barkskin, Enlarge, Body Ethereal, Quickness, Liquid Body, Mist Form, all kinds of goodies there. At 5, you could go up to... Oh, no, we're not going to reach Iron Skin, are we? No. At 5, you could get Cat-Eyed Warriors with a little bit of work. This gives you Dark Vision if you need it. This also gives you Blood Poisoning. Remember, we have non-slow to recruit Nature 2 mages. Blood Poisoning is a really good spell. Range 30, 100 precision, 20 fatigue. Gives you 15 plus magic poison damage that is armor negating. I think that's pretty interesting. Generally speaking, I guess you also get Baleful Star. You can get Astral 3 mages out of your Cat Mage, so you could just curse armies right before you're going to fight them. That's vaguely useful. I I think in the early game, you probably stop at 4, which gets you up to quickness and group bark skin and swarm. All of those are really, really nice. Also, in evocation, I don't think we're mainly an evocation nation. And if you didn't start with evocation at all, maybe avoiding it might be worthwhile for the early game, because once you unlock Vine Arrow and Web, nature mages love to cast those. And I think we would prefer them point buffing and maybe animating some trees rather than doing those two things. If they do, our troops are relatively strong, so they can break out of the friendly fire pretty well. Beyond that, you have a little bit of access to Lightning Bolt, not a lot since it's a slow to recruit cap mage. A little access to some death stuff like Shadow Bolt, or I think the big brother Shadow Blast would be pretty interesting. Costs you a death gem, but it's AoE 9+ for 8+ armor negating, magic resist check for half, and it does paralyze and AoE. This is a disgusting spell. Can be very, very surprising for people. But I think the big one here is actually Cloud of Death or Winds of Death. Cloud of Death, of course, leaves a lingering cloud that can kill people. Winds of Death, this is really, really doable by our cap mages. They start at Death 2. If you got, let's say, a Death 3, so just one of your randoms hit that, that'd be a 25% chance, and you have 2 of those. Give them a staff, and if you lucked into Air 2, you can Cloud Trap ease in, Wind of Death, and then just return out, or have a Ring of Returning to leave. Very, very hard to counter that. Very powerful here. Construction, Alquills, Thistle Maces. You might actually, because we're kind of a hoardy type faction, you might need some supply items. Those could be pretty good. You're going to want Death Boosters for sure. If you can get it, you would like to get Earth Boots. Earth 1 kind of sucks. Not a lot you can do beyond self-buffing. But if you make a couple pairs of boots, then they can Earth Power. Now we're Earth 3. Now we can give our troops Giant Strength, which they really like. We could do Temper Armor, which they really like. We could do Weapons of Sharpness, which they really like. There's a lot going on at Earth 3 that we would really, really like to be doing. But unfortunately, we just don't natively have. Also, I think we could do some light thugging. As mentioned, Great Sword of Sharpness is a cheap, easy item that I think we're pretty interested in, if for nothing else, to make at least one to kind of win the arena. In Conjuration, we have a lot of things that we can reach. I do think you probably get this for Summon Earth Power if you can get up to some Earth 2 people. But the big ones here are actually, if you design a Pretender to do it, I think Gnomes. Gnomes would be really nice. It gives you some other casters that bring in some magic variety, and being able to do Glamour would be really nice for us. Remember, Luck moved over to Glamour. They also have some Earth, so they could be your Earth buffers. So I think this is a strong consideration for your Pretender to open yourself up to do some Gnome summoning. We like Cold. Cold also means that you get Unseelie Knights or Unseelie Footfolk. Those are really, really powerful. We don't have cavalry, so giving yourself some Unseelie Knights could be good. Now, remember, we don't have native Glamour, so you're not going to be rolling in Glamour gems most likely, but I think it's so good on the Gnomes, it's worth at least thinking about. Beyond that, we also could do things like a Lamia Queen. This is difficult, but I think we could boost into that. Before that, we could do things like Nest of Asps. We could do things like Bog Beasts. We can do... where are you at? Not here. Here. Streams from Hades is a pretty good summon in. We also could do Naiads and Naiad Warriors. So, again, a little bit of work here. We would need to get to Water 3 somehow, but I think that's pretty darn doable. Naiads are decent commanders, and Naiad Warriors are pretty good too. And that gives us some more amphibious attack vectors. Really nice. Enchantment, as previously mentioned, we really like the earth buffs that are in here, but they're hard for us to do. The regen could be good. Buffing that out on troops is rather nice. I don't think we really care about going particularly deeper in that. Personal Flight could be vaguely interesting. Beyond that, I don't think we really care. Thaumaturgy. In Thaumaturgy, we have communions available, so I think you could consider that. What I think we'd really like here is personal luck, but unfortunately, or just any luck. Fortunately, that's glamour now. We don't have that natively, so ouch. Teleporting, returning, again, the teleport or cloud trap ease in, wind of death, return out your twice-born guy is absolutely disgusting. I should also mention in enchantment, Lichcraft is a option. You could natively get a 3 or a 4, and that makes it pretty easy with just a staff to get up to 5. Lichcraft, your Crow Shaman, and now you have an Immortal Caster, which is empowered in death even further. So quite disgusting. I think that's an interesting goal because while we have lots of good magic, we don't have tons of really high stuff, so I don't know where you're really going to go with that. This would give you a goal to head towards. Also, we have a little bit of blood magic, so if you get some blood, maybe you could come down here. The best we could realistically hope for is a blood 2, so that's not really going to get you too far. I guess that Storm Demons is a possibility. Maybe. Beyond that, I think you're looking at like Bloodrite for vampires or Curse of Blood. This would be a lot of work, but doable. And that breaks you actually into blood pretty solidly. So overall, I think our main goal in Magic is point buffs. Bark Skin, Body Ethereal, Quickness. If you could get into Earth stuff is really good for us. More so than a lot of evocations or anything like that. Okay, let's bring all of that together. Nidavangr is a barbarian nation that has recruit anywhere troops that are pretty good. They have a very unique and decent to even good human better sacred. We have non-solo recruit mages that are very capable and a good cap-only solo recruit. We have some in-game danger where we can threaten winds of death, which is a really nice threat to have. We have tons of capability of recruiting mages outside of forts. Look at this game. I have 4 provinces that have a temple and a lab, and I have them all on recruiting apprentices at the moment and pulling in tons and tons of them. This is on turn 21. Now, it doesn't look like I did very good here, but on turn like 12, I got attacked by Phlegra. They attacked me over here, like literally outside of my cap, and I basically dominated them. I wasn't prepared for a war, and I have just been throwing Cub Warriors into them. If you are a giant nation, especially a giant nation that doesn't have a lot of giants, a spammable 19 slashing damage troop is your worst nightmare. I didn't lose a single battle to him. I had one group come up here. I had the reinforcements take a different route. And now on turn 21, I am sieging his capital down. All the while, I have still managed to maintain, even with sending a bunch of mages to the front, 204 research. And that's with all of these mages that I've sent up to the front. Now, admittedly, I do have 45 of that coming from my god, but still, that's a very respectable amount of recruitment. Here is a Crow Mage that I just recruited. Look at what he's thinking about doing. Cloud Trapeze, Wind of Death, Return. Easy peasy. Easy as that. Nothing too hoopy to jump through. I could either give him just some spare death gems, or I could have him have a skull staff. Either way, easy to do there. Being able to pull all these recruits, I just turned off my backline recruitment because I realized, wait, why am I recruiting back here and ferrying when I could just recruit up here? There's the bear clubs, there's the bear cubs, there's the bear cubs. So literally every turn, once all my leaders get here, I'm just going to ferry more and more bear cubs in here. And we are going to chop down whatever Phlegra has left, which isn't going to be much. So that is really nice. In addition, in this game, I don't think I went too far into turmoil. I think you do need to be careful how far into turmoil you go, because it's difficult to get all of your sacreds out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I can't get my 6th one out. If I turn that off, I have 21. I can get like one troop. So if you're going to lean into your sacreds, be careful how much turmoil you take, or you won't be able to afford them. Now, for me, this is actually okay in this case, because if I'm doing a sacred mage, which all of our mages are, I can use up one of those holy points. So just something to think about there, either way. Pretenders and scales. We have some of the Norse gods, although not everybody is present. So an okay amount of chassis choices here. For scales, remember, we have +1 turmoil limit and +1 cold limit. So we can go to turmoil 3, we can go to cold 3, but just keep in mind, we might need some recruitment points, and we don't have protection from cold death. So you're probably going to get some pop kill if you go cold 3 during the winter. That being said, I think we have lots of decent choices here. Great Sage could be an awake researcher that all of your recruit everywhere apprentices can spend 1 turn walking to the capital and enjoy his inspiring researcher bonus. I think that could be pretty interesting. He would really help you get up into your research. I think you could probably attack somebody at alt 3, frankly. Body Ethereal, if you luck into 4 or 5 astral mages, is really hard for someone to deal with like year 1. And if you're supporting sacreds with that, hard to deal with. We have a Glamour Earth chassis on the Svartov Master Smith. I think he's a little overpriced. You can do something where he actually can try to help you expand if you go with the right Blessed, but I don't think that Blessed is particularly good for our sacreds. Frostfather can be a really nice one. We're going to have cold 2 or 3 most likely, so that could be pretty decent. Moving up to Dom 2, I do think that the Lenormor is all right. I like Son of Fenrir. He comes in with extra wolves, so if you have an all right Bless, he can be interesting at least. Moving up to Titans, I don't love Titans. We do have a couple options for Glamour. I'll talk about why I'm so entranced with that here in a second. We do have the Asneja, who has Disease Healer, which could help some of our old shaman, but I think we're more likely to just twice born them than try to save them from disease. Unfortunately, we don't get any of the healers, which would be nice for our sacreds. We could get some magic diversity here with the Divas of the Sun and having some fire. I do think that Demi-Lich might be an interesting one, even post-nerf here, if you're going to do a big death bless. We do have Irminsul. Irminsul makes for very cheap regeneration. I think that could be vaguely interesting. Maybe regeneration and recuperation that would help both keep your old mages alive and recoup off those wounds from your sacreds. I'm going to show you a build on Idol of Sorcery. Idol of Man would break you maybe into some fire. I think that would be really interesting for Righteous Wrath. Every time your sacred quote unquote dies and uses a scar, they count as dying, so that will proc Righteous Wrath. Stacking Righteous Wrath and Blood Surge is a ridiculous amount of stats. That would solidly put you over 30 damage, solidly into killing Monoliths if you need to. Monolith here could be an interesting one. Ethereal Bless maybe even could be interesting. Quickness Bless could be interesting, but again, both of those were able to point buff, so I think those are maybe a little less interesting. Overall, for our troops, I don't think we have to have production. I think we can even skirt by with a little bit of sloth, a little bit of turmoil. Magic scales would be really nice because we have lots of efficient but slow researchers. So I think that's another place that would be interesting. Well, let's look at a couple I created. I'm going to show you 2 different ones here, although they're both using the same theme. First, we have Lucky Charm. This is an Eldest Dwarf. He is to bless our sacreds. He is only dormant. He comes in with the 3 turmoil and 3 cold, though. This is difficult. You're going to struggle to get all of your sacreds out, hence why I don't think I'm going to go with him. But he brings in Undying, Luck, and Enchanted Blood. This is an incredibly potent bless. Our sacreds are good enough offensively that I think you want to do something to make them harder to kill and have fun killing these guys. They're going to have at least 3 extra lives, so you have to kill them 4 times. They have 8 extra HP, and if you take them below, let's say they're at -3, and the Enchanted Blood heal past it, then you can proc Luck again. So you can spam do Luck. So to kill this guy, you have to pass a Luck check 4 times, or more if he regens up into positive HP during any of those. So have fun killing those sacreds. Enchanted Blood regen, if you end combat in the negatives, you actually will use up a scar and not die. So that's nice. But what if you just healed past it and didn't die at all? And then you didn't have to use up one of your scars. This is incredibly potent at keeping your sacreds alive. Although note, it doesn't do anything against the afflictions. So sooner or later, they're going to pile up enough afflictions that they're just going to die from that. But that being said, this is pretty spooky. This is a pretty spooky bless. He also brings us a little bit of glamour and earth. So he does give us that possibility of gnome summoning, which is quite potent here, I think. That would allow us to put luck on other non-sacred troops, which is nice. And it could be gnome summoning if you luck into that. He also is a higher death mage, so he could more easily get the vampire thing rolling for you. My second one, and the one I think we will probably play, although I'm very open to hearing some interesting blesses for these guys, especially using Righteous Wrath and Blood Surge. He has 7 Dominion, so once you're at 7, your sacreds from your capital will round up to 4 extra lives, so you have to kill them 5 times. We have Undying again and Luck, so again, you have to pass that luck check each time you're killing them. And on this one, I actually took 1 point of heroism. Reason being, A, your sacreds are going to live through a couple fights, most likely, and getting them leveled up is just extra free stats that will make them more efficient. And all of our very spammy research/combat mages are sacred. So having heroism means we cut down on the number of turns they need to get 1 level, which increases their research 1. Note that the Idol of Sorcery raises your magic cap to 3. So instead of 5 research, now we're doing 8. And once you level up once, now you're doing 9 research for 30 gold per year. Ridiculously efficient research. And he brings in high enough astral that we can make some astral boosters. He can make some death boosters, although we can natively do that. We can do glamour boosters if we find some glamour mages or we summon in gnomes. That's all right. He is not one of the chassis that can't teleport. So while we're only going to have our prophet, he can teleport in for throne claiming duty. He also can project self. Unfortunately, you can't use gems while projecting yourself, so you can't do the shenanigans of Winds of Death or anything with that. So hence why I didn't try to shoehorn in some air here, but he also could send full horrors at people if you wanted to go down that route, boost them into a little bit of blood, and there you go. Pretty interesting. The luck is kind of the theme. I'm very interested in using luck plus these scars, but I'm open to other blesses too. So let me know if you found a really cool bless. I think there's something to be said about like Blood Surge, Righteous Wrath, Undying, something like that is just a bajillion stats, and that can be its own strength there too. So quite interesting blesses that you can get yourself into. All right, in conclusion, Nidavangr is a very, very cool nation that has a lot of the strengths of the barbarian type nations and avoids some of their weaknesses, where they have troops they can afford to get outside of their forts. They have good troops in their forts. They can actually build castles, but they don't have to, especially at the early game. If you want to rush somebody, they have a pretty unique sacred that's really cool to use. And yeah, they're just fun to play. Usable combat magic, point buffing is good in Dominion 6. Very, very cool. I think it's an awesome nation. Let me know what kind of builds you've made with them, because I think there's a lot of potential here. All right, builders, don't forget to leave a like if you enjoyed this video. If you are not already subscribed, I hope this is the video that has earned your subscription. I'd love to have you back. And if you'd like to support the channel further, you can always leave a super thanks on this video. You could join us live on stream and do a super chat, or consider becoming a channel member. As a channel member, you get early access to Dominion's pregame videos and other content that I am working on. Either way, I appreciate you guys. Let's continue having fun with Dominions. Share those crazy blesses, because I know somebody's got to have some crazy ones for this nation. I'll see you guys on stream.